Winter is a great time to update spaces that are driving you crazy. So we probably all have hot spots in our house, places that we're continuously having to organize and reorganize and feel like, oh my gosh, is there ever going to be a system that works for this? And today I want to show you 3 areas that I tweaked in my home in the last month that are really adding a lot of functionality to my house. I find that my cabinet where I keep like our day-to-day paperwork, like things that are actionable, and then also I keep kid activities that I would want my child to do supervised so that I don't have colorful things happening all over my walls, um, is a frequent place that gets disorganized. We have a tiny entry closet that is both our front entry closet and our garage entry closet. Those are shared spaces in our house, and that is an issue. And then finally, I have a doom cabinet in my kitchen that for a long time I didn't really use for anything, but I really found that I needed overflow space for like food storage containers and that sort of thing for the way that I meal prep. So I'm going to be addressing all of those areas today and showing you some just simple organizational systems that I've put in place in order to make those things work. In our closet that is our garage entry and our main entry, it's small. I mean, it's about a 4-foot wide closet on the inside. And honestly, this is an inventory issue. Like there's just no way around it. When I pull all of the shoes that are coming from this closet, this is an inventory issue. And this is like a husband inventory issue too. So if you're struggling with something that your husband has a lot of and you don't have a lot of it, but it still needs to kind of find a place in your home, I get it. This is an area that is definitely like that for me. But if you saw my cluttery husband's video, then you know I don't touch his stuff. And so in this scenario, I know we're going to be living with more shoes than I would care to live with. And that's his preference. He has shoes for a lot of different purposes. He likes to rotate shoes really frequently to reduce foot odor. I mean, he's got a whole thought process. So don't worry, it's well thought out. This is not clutter that has entered our house mindlessly, let me assure you. But I started looking for a pre-made shelf because that's really, I just wanted to be able to like put a shelf together because I felt like that's in my pay grade and then stick it in there and be done with it. And because it's a small space, like I had about 30 inches of height to work with before the coats would start hitting the shelf. So I wanted to kind of be in that realm, but I had a million pairs of shoes to store and mostly big shoes, like boots, not really smaller pairs of shoes. And so like something that, is like a tip out solution or something like that wasn't gonna work. I had like giant shoes. Could not find a shelf that was going to give me like the linear footage of storage that I needed. And so I bought a pantry kit, which was taller than I needed, but I just used like not all of the components. And then it was $116. So I thought that was, decent for what I ended up achieving. And I did 16-inch deep shelves because I have the space for it. And like I said, some of these shoes are kind of bulky. And so I thought that would work well. And so I just installed it in like the lower portion so that the coats could still hang where the coats were hanging. And then did 2 shelves for boots and 1 shelf for, well, basically the space below the 2 shelves is for shorter shoes, like tennis shoes or my 2 pairs of shoes. When we moved into this house, we had this one shelf, which is the hanging shelf in this closet. And I put 3 baskets up here, and one is for my son's snow gear, one is for my husband's, and then one is for like pets. And then also we keep sunscreen and bug spray in there. During the summer, those come out into the closet, but this time of year, that's where they stay. And then we have all of our coats hanging. And I am also a 3-coat person. I have like a light fall jacket, a dressier coat, and then a warm down coat. My husband is a coat options person, and so we have a lot of coats for him. But he also does a lot more winter activities than I do, and so I understand like he needs those things. And then here is the mass collection of shoes and boots, etc. And then I just keep our boot trays down here. I have two because it's really nice to put them by the hooks in our front door area. When we have people come over, then wet shoes can go there if the weather's not great. And then on the door, we do use the Alpha system. I keep socks for myself and for my son down here. I did change that, so I started using a smaller basket for my socks because I don't really need as big of a basket as I was using, and I really needed a bigger basket for the winter gear, so I just swapped those. And so that's just, you know, the kind of grab and go things like hat for my son, hat for me, and gloves and that kind of thing. I don't have a whole basket of winter gear because I just don't require all of that. I'm not outdoorsy enough for that. And then these hooks, I hang my purse here, of course, and then usually the lower hooks have my son's coat and like his little backpack on it occasionally, just depending on what's needed. And sometimes it has a bag that's hanging there for me to take back to my parents' house with anything that we've accumulated from their house that needs to go back. And right now that basket is already loaded in my car. So I think this is a really nice improvement. Well, folks, the Cabinet of Doom has struck again. If you were with me during my Declutter the Whole House video, you saw that I gave this cabinet just a quick clean out and declared that maybe I just needed less stuff and didn't need an organizing solution. But the last 2 weeks have certainly proved that that is indeed not the case. And so I have truly jerry-rigged a Target piece of furniture. So I am taking a look at the instructions, and I'm not really sure why, since I will then not follow any of them. But I am basically assembling this to determine if it will fit in my cabinet. And again, not really sure why I didn't just put the legs together and stick that in the cabinet to see if that would work, because that would have been a much easier way to tell if this was going to happen. But this is basically a like rolling file cart that Target offered, and the height with the casters was like 2 inches higher than I needed it to be, and so I thought we might be pretty close, but it's really not going to work to have the bottom drawer in it, as I will find out here in just a minute. And I think that's probably good because the bottom drawer is enormous. Like, it's large enough to put files into. And I don't think that that would have worked. The way that it ended up working is actually perfect for the cabinet. And I love that I use the full depth of the cabinet with the drawers. But I can imagine that I could have bought many other organizational solutions for less than the $40 that I paid for this filing cabinet. But at that point, I was too far in, you know, it was partially assembled. This thing was going to work no matter what. So I ended up just using the top 2 drawers of this system in order to make this work within the cabinet size that I have. And front to back, it pretty much takes up the whole space. So that is really handy. And these drawers do glide very easily. So they'll actually fit all of my mason jars of the 2 different sizes that I keep on hand in the one bottom drawer. And then I'm putting in the top drawer some of the broth containers and also a 3-part condiment container that I use frequently when I'm doing things that have toppings for my meal prep. And it's always kind of a pain because it doesn't store anywhere well in my kitchen. So really glad to have given this a permanent home. So I am just tucking the boxes of food storage bags that I use to refill the drawer above this when I need to, which is probably monthly or less than that. And so I just tuck those in the back because I'm not going to need them as often. And then I have a container that I use to store the various lids that are for the items in this section, and a stack of meal prep containers that I use to put food into my freezer if we have some leftovers. And I'm just putting the trash bags out. I'm not putting them in any kind of drawer. I'm quickly going through this lids bin that I actually keep in the cabinet above for the rest of the Tupperware, and just making sure that all lids that go with the various containers that are being stored on this lower half are going to be with the containers. I am definitely a person of efficiency. Anytime I can reduce the number of cabinets I open or steps that I need to take in order to complete a task, I will always do that, because it ultimately saves you so much time over and over and over again. And I really think that thinking through things with efficiency helps you to get so much more done, which I really value. Well, here it is in all of its organized glory, and I must say that after just using this for a couple of weeks, I really do think that this is going to add the functionality that this cabinet needed. So I'm glad I took the time to put in an organizational system. So this is only about 3 weeks of accumulation in this cabinet. So I had just tackled this during my declutter everything video that I did recently. And so I'm really just trying this because I have this shoe shelf left over from my closet, and I wanted to give it a try with something that I had on hand. This cabinet gets a ton of use, and it often gets used sort of in a hurry or at the last minute. And so I think that I just have to give myself grace. This space gets used a lot. It is kind of a hub for paper organization and that sort of thing. And, those systems are working, even though this cabinet is getting messy. And so if you've got an area like that in your home, then permission to forgive yourself and move on and try again if you want to. And so I'm going to see if I can make this work with the things that I already have on hand. And if not, then I'm sure you'll see this cabinet again as I try something else. So on the top shelf there, I keep our home reference binder, which is just stuff that we would send with the future owner of this house, should that ever happen. And next to that is a binder I use for my garden planning, excuse the cats. And then all of our household files are kept in that white box. And then my actionable papers are in the files below. And then I keep like mopping solution and mop heads and the vacuum attachment for our mopping robot in the little basket there, because nearby is our mopping robot. And then on the shelves, I have some stamps and a little puzzle that my son needs some help with, but because he can't read, but he can look at the pictures, but he just needs a little bit of coaxing. And then I have construction paper, a roll of paper, paints, some notebooks that I kind of use for filing some things about him, and then sensory bin materials, Play-Doh, craft sticks, various things to color with, and then like some workbooks and clipboard printouts that are like good worksheets and that kind of thing. So this really kind of helps clear up a lot of space on the floor of the cabinet, which will be interesting to see if that means that I just use it as a catch-all or if this works. But yeah, I'm kind of enjoying having a little bit of an extra shelf. I had thought about adding a shelf, which you could do super easily. Just, if you go to Lowe's or something, they can print or they can cut you a shelf. But I need some tall storage for the files and the notebooks. And so this is kind of a nice solution. And since I already had it, then I think it might work nicely. So we'll see how this works, but this is definitely a cabinet that gives me continual trouble. So I'm hoping that it's a good improvement. Well, I do hope that this has been an encouragement to you that if something's not working, maybe it's time to try something different. And of course, you can limp it along with something that you already have for as long as you can, or you can just try decluttering. But if those things aren't working and you've got a hot spot in your house, of course, it's time to address it. So I hope that this will inspire you to take care of a couple of things like that in your own home. And I'd love to know what those are in the comments down below. I hope that you'll stick around and subscribe and that you'll like this video, and I'll see you on the next one.